Hi, everybody, and welcome to our virtual student forum. We're so excited to have members of the class of 2019 who are going to be hearing live from 3 of our current Yale students. My name is Mark Dunn, and I work as an admissions officer here. You're not going to be hearing much from me, though, today. I'm going to leave that to our awesome Yaleys who are joining us. So we have Abdul, Claire, and Joe here today. All 3 of them are Yale sophomores and represent a great sort of diversity of interests and communities here on campus. Before I have them introduce themselves, I just want to let you all know that we would love to hear your questions throughout the broadcast today. So you can use the Q&A app if you're watching on Google+, and that's right sort of on this side of your screen. We are also going to be looking for questions if you want to post them on the YouTube page. I'll be looking there. And also, if you are in the Class of 2019 Facebook group, you can write a question there, and we will bubble it up. So without further ado, would you guys like to introduce yourselves to our viewers? Abdul, you want to get us started?
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Abdul Zachariah. I'm a sophomore in Timothy Dwight College. I'm a sociology major and I concentrate in education studies, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut.
Hi guys, my name is Claire Mallon. I'm also a sophomore in Timothy Dwight College. I'm studying mechanical engineering, and outside the classroom I am in a sorority, and I am co-president of Bulldogs Racing, which is Yale's Formula Electric team.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe. I'm a sophomore in Davenport College. I'm double majoring in global affairs with a concentration in international security and also South Asian studies. Outside of the classroom, I'm very involved in student government. I have some experience in the Yale Political Union and in a consulting firm called the Elmseed Enterprise Fund.
Excellent. And just a reminder for folks who might just be joining us, we'd love to get your questions. You can ask them in sort of 3 different places. One is through the question and answers app, the Q&A app that's part of Google+. Another option is to do it on the Facebook group, and then the third option is to post it on the YouTube page. We'll be looking at all 3 of those. I just want to actually get things started with a question for Claire. Claire, you mentioned that you're part of the Bulldogs racing team, which is always sounded really, really cool to me. And I know that Bulldogs Racing actually has a national championship under their belt. Could you talk a little bit about what Bulldogs Racing is all about, and maybe just a little bit for folks who want to know what it's like to be an engineer at Yale?
Yeah, so Bulldogs Racing is a really great undergraduate organization. We build a formula-style car. In the past, we've built hybrids, but next year we're moving into the all-electric division. I got involved with Bulldogs Racing in just my first few weeks on campus as a freshman, and I really enjoyed it. I did robotics in high school, and so it was a nice transition in to the engineering scene here at Yale. I absolutely love our engineering program. I love all of our professors. I love all of my classes. I really couldn't ask for a better experience there. I've also gotten to know a lot of people through Bulldogs Racing and other engineering organizations, a lot of people in my major, a lot of upperclassmen, and a lot of recent alums, and that's a really great opportunity. My favorite thing, maybe my favorite thing about Yale Engineering is our engineering center. It's called the Center for Engineering Innovation and Design, or the CEID, and it's this really great 24-hour space where you can go, and there are meeting rooms upstairs where you can get a group of people together. Pretty much every wall in the CEID is a whiteboard, and so I frequently will do my homework just on the walls of the CEID and then copy it down and turn it in. It's a really great collaborative space. We also have, I think, 5 3D printers, a full wood shop, a full metal shop, and a laser cutter. And we also have the Rapid Prototyping Center, which has a lot of pipe cleaners and Play-Doh and pom-poms and everything you could ever need to, instead of me saying, oh, I want to build something that's this big or does this or whatever, I can go over to the Rapid Prototyping Center and actually build it with my hands and then show somebody this is what I want to do. And then I can go over and put it in SolidWorks, print it off on one of the 3D printers or cut it out with a laser. And in an evening, I've gone from like concept to actual finished part. And I think that's something that's like really unique about Yale's engineering program and something that I wouldn't trade for the world.
Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and throw another question out there. You might have caught that Abdul is from West Haven, and those who don't know the area might not know that there's New Haven, which is where Yale is located, and then right next door there's a West Haven, there's an East Haven, and there's a North Haven too. So Abdul has lived in New Haven even longer than I have now. And I was wondering if you could tell the folks a little bit about what you like about New Haven. As someone who's been here for a while, what makes the place special, and what do you like to do as a student in New Haven?
Yeah, sure. So I think the greatest thing that I love about New Haven is that it has such a strong sense of community. Like, it isn't a huge city, it isn't a tiny town, it's right in the middle where like everyone really gets to know each other. And when you really want to participate as a Yale student in the community, there's so many different options, and there are rallies and there are events that people can join and be a participant of and actually feel like they're part of the New Haven community. I also really like that there's a lot of cultural events that happen here. There's jazz music festivals, and there's an international arts festival, and there's a lot of draws that bring people from other cities and other countries to New Haven as well. So even though it's a smaller city, it is an attractive place for a lot of people to come and visit and see. There are a lot of cool restaurants in New Haven that I really like. There's the famous New Haven pizza that like pretty much everyone loves when they come to visit. But I also go to a lot of the different culturally themed restaurants. There's an Ethiopian restaurant in the city, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern. There's a lot of different types, so it's really exciting to just go out a random night and find a new different cuisine that you can eat. And as a local student, it's just really exciting to be able to, I don't know, go home and visit my family, but I also do feel separate from home, which is like a comfortable thing where I can go home if I want to, but I also have the chance to be myself and experience New Haven as my individual self. So it's a really fun place, enough of a college town and enough of a real place put together.
Yeah, it's really well put. Thanks, Abdul. And Joe, I'm going to go ahead and throw a question at you, just because I know it's a popular question. You mentioned that you are planning to pursue the Global Affairs major. And that's a really popular option for students, and it's actually a relatively new major. So could you tell folks a little bit about what Global Affairs looks like, and what 4 years in that major looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Global Affairs is run through something called the Jackson Institute for Global Affairs, and that's partnered with a master's program. And essentially what it aims to do is to give students a very solid foundation in quantitative skills that can be applied to political situations. So you can apply public policy, or apply quantitative skills to public policy. So it's often compared to political science and international relations, but Global Affairs, I think, is set apart by its focus on quantitative analysis and on analyzing specific policy. So what I really like about it is that in a lot of the seminars, it's a seminar-based major. In a lot of them, you say identify one specific policy. So right now I'm taking one on terrorism. So we look at the United States counterterrorism departments. There are several of them, and we pick very specific policies that the United States employs. We study the relevant history, the cultural context of it, and we create a whole number of policy options, and where we back those up with quantitative and qualitative data. So I like it because it's very applied. As Mark said, it's a relatively new major, so there's a ton of resources that are going into this major. They have a whole number of fellowships that send global affairs majors all over the world every single summer. And there's a lot of recruiting from major security agencies like the CIA, the DIA, NSA on campus, as well as the State Department and the White House. So it's a great way to like build those skills and also be set up for a solid career post Yale. Excellent.
So we got a question through the Q&A app. It looks like it's from Manasa, and she's asking about pre-medical requirements and the pre-medical program at Yale, which some folks who are viewing, may know is somewhat unique at Yale. Because we're a liberal arts college, of course, there's not a pre-med major, and so you can major in just about anything. My friends who went on to medical school from Yale majored in things like English, history, religious studies, and they've all had fabulous careers in medical school, and most of them are actually now in their residencies. Do any of you feel comfortable talking about what pre-med is like at Yale, and maybe what's unique about it, and specifically when Sana was wondering about when students take the MCAT, and like how do you actually prepare to go to medical school while you are in the liberal arts environment at Yale.
Yeah, I can talk about pre-med a little bit. I was pre-med for about a semester and a half of my freshman year before I realized that I'm really, really interested in automotive engineering, and that's kind of what I want to do. And a lot of my friends are still pre-med. So in terms of MCAT, most people take it in their junior year. You start applying to med schools like very beginning of your senior year, or even maybe like the summer before your senior year. So sometime during their junior year, they take the MCAT. We have a really good pre-med advising program. I always felt like I was getting really good advice on how to plan for my 4 years as a pre-med student. So there are things like freshmen can actually take a specialized freshman organic chemistry class if they place out of other classes, and then they can go on to take general chemistry later. So that's something that a lot of pre-med students will elect to do. There are also really cool classes. My suite mate is pre-med, and he's currently taking a sociology course called Health of the Public. So he's getting a sociology course that will help him with the MCAT, but he's also learning a lot about, like, you know, how the public and how healthy the public is. And he's reading this book, and he keeps telling me about, like, oh, like social networks, and the people in the middle of the social networks are more likely to be like this and this and this. And so he's really excited about that. Other pre-med courses, I mean, like, you've got your psychology, you've got all of your chemistry, all of your bio. There are a couple of different majors that align really well with the pre-med requirements. So Mark said, you know, that you can major in whatever you want to, which is very, very true, and I have a lot of friends who are, you know, English majors who are also pre-med. That being said, there are 3 different biology majors that we have. There's MCDB, molecular, cellular, and developmental biology. There's MB&B, molecular biochemistry and biophysics, and then there's E and EB, which is ecology and evolutionary biology. And those are very popular for pre-med majors, just because pre-meds are already taking a lot of biology classes, and hopefully they're really interested in biology, and so a lot of them will choose to major in that. Out of those 3, I think it's MCDB that aligns the best with the, like, typical pre-med requirements, and so a lot of people will elect to do that. But I have friends pretty much in any major that are doing pre-med. I have a friend who's a music major who is going to medical school after graduation, and I think that's really cool because he, like, got this, like, Yale music education, and then he's going to go to this, like, fantastic medical school and get that medical education. And yeah, I definitely think that our advising program is top-notch. And you also, so not only is there, like, the pre-health professional advising program, I think it's called, but then also you have your sophomore advisor, you have your director of undergraduate studies, you have your dean, you have your master, you have a whole bunch of people who know about pre-med and can help you along your way. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. Okay, and we keep getting some more great questions in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just move right on to the next one. This one is from Claire, and I think this might be good for you to help us out with, Joe. So she's asking about how easy is it to study abroad? What percentage of Yale students do it at some time during their 4 years? So I know the admissions stats on all kinds of stuff, so I know that right now it's about 70% of Yale students will go abroad at some point during their 4 years. Yale students tend to talk about international experiences. That's sort of our lingo, and it's not just because it sounds, you know, more pretentious than study abroad, because an international experience could be traditional study abroad for a semester or a year where you take other classes in another country that go towards your Yale degree. It could also be something like a paid internship in the summer, or for a lot of times independent research. So I know, Joe, that in global affairs, you know, this is a really popular option, though obviously you can major in anything and go abroad, and Yale really wants students in all majors to go abroad. But, you know, what's your perspective on what it's like to study abroad and what the resources are for students who want to go in that direction?
Yeah, I think the key is what you just said, is that it's very easy to study abroad regardless of what your major is. I have a whole number of friends that are going abroad next year, either for a semester or for a year, or even for a summer. That seems to be one of the most popular options. And they're from all kinds of backgrounds. You know, people who are engineers or pre-med, people who are music majors, people who are the more traditional global affairs, political science majors. So Yale makes it very easy for you to do that. And it does that in a couple of ways. So the first one is funding. Yale has a huge number of fellowships that it can give out, and the way this works is early in the spring semester, Yaleys can apply to specific fellowships for like studying urban development in like a South American country, or they can do medical research and they can apply for medical research fellowships, or they can apply for language study fellowships. So there's a whole number of fellowships that you can apply to, and Yale will give you almost full funding in a number of cases to go and study abroad or have an international experience. And another way that it helps is with advising. So we have an entire department in our Office of Career Strategy called the Center for International Professional Experience. And what they do is they have a number of people that they employ that their entire role is really to cultivate this culture of studying abroad and making sure that you have an international education. So they're there every step of the way telling you how do you apply for funding, where are the programs that you can look through to see what summer programs are out there, what semester-long or year-long programs are out there, and they really guide you through the whole process. So whether it's with funding or whether it's with advising, it's extremely easy for you to go abroad. And then finally, a last thing is Yale makes it pretty easy for you to transfer credits if you're doing a traditional study abroad at a foreign university. It makes it pretty easy for you to transfer those credits in so that you can count those towards your graduation requirements.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to just move right along the list here. I think this is going to be a great question for Abdul. This is from Andreas, and I love this question. The question is about advising. How does advising at Yale work, and how often do you meet your advisor? And I'll sort of add on to that. What are the different types of advisors out there? Every Yale student gets more than just one advisor giving more than one perspective. So what does that look like in your experience, Abdul?
So yeah, I think we've actually talked about advising in like the past two answers a little bit, but for me, advising started like most people freshman year. We all get a freshman advisor that's appointed to us, and it's basically when you're choosing your classes, they help you get an idea of what a good work layout should be, what your first like few classes should look like, what your interests are, and how you can line that up with your first few classes in the first semester. In addition to your freshman advisor, who's usually a faculty member at Yale, you also have your freshman counselor, who's a senior at the school, who you'll have a group with that you meet with, and that person will look over your schedule and usually sign your schedule before the semester starts. And they also have experience understanding like how difficult a class may be, if you can really take 4 or 5 classes, if this language is good now, or if it's better for you to take it later. And so you have those two from the start to really help you out. In addition to that, for long-term advising, there's your master and your dean. They both serve as the faculty members and the adults, basically, that run your residential college. And your dean especially runs your academics. And so you would meet with your dean if you'd like to drop a class, if you'd want to switch a class from a credit D fail accreditation to a regular letter grade accreditation. And if you just want to talk about how difficult some classes may be for you, and if you really want to pursue a certain class or a certain major over something else. So they help with your long-term advising, and you can really go to them at any point of your time at Yale. In addition to that, after your freshman year, you actually get to choose who your sophomore year advisor will be. And that person is usually a professor that you had in your freshman year, or someone who works in the major that you're interested in. So my sophomore advisor is the director of the Education Studies program. And I only ended up having her as an advisor because I took a class with her last semester. And now I'm part of the Education Studies program. So it was actually, I went the other way, where I talked to someone I was interested in and then became part of that major or program. So you really can't find these advisors based on like budding interests or based on something that you're definite about. And they can really help you reach your requirements for your certain major, or just figure out what classes match up with the rest of the studies that you want to do. After sophomore year, you have your junior year advisor, which is really just your DUS, or your director of undergraduate studies, for the specific major that you're in. So next year, my junior advisor will be my sociology director of undergraduate studies, and he'll help me figure out how to basically get the requirements done so I can graduate on time, but also make sure that I'm linking up classes with my sociology courses so I can really learn what I want specifically out of the program and just really get the best education that I can within the last 2 years. so those are all the systematic advisors that you'll have. You'll also find that you'll have friends that can serve as advisors sometimes too, because they'll take classes that you're interested in, and they can really like let you know like, oh, this class runs this way or this other way, and so you can use those systems that are set up for you already, or you can really just do a social interaction with people. There's blue booking parties for when we're picking classes at the beginning of the year, and people meet up and look at the classes in the blue book that we have and say like, oh, we can go shop this class together during shopping period, and during these first 2 weeks see like, do we really like these classes, or are these classes better? And so I think there's advising kind of filtered into Yale systematically or not, and you can really find different ways to get advice about all of this.
Excellent. That's really well put. There are a couple of other questions that actually sort of dovetail nicely with each other, and I think I'll actually probably take a first stab at them. One of the questions is from Valentina, who asked on the YouTube page, are double majors common at Yale? And then we got another question from Claire on the Facebook page that was asking about the benefits and downsides of cross-departmental majors, and she mentions physics and philosophy and math and computer science. And I'm going to take this one, and I'm getting excited because when I graduated from Yale, I did a combined interdepartmental major. I did something called the psychology track in the philosophy major. And so I always explain this to folks in terms of people who are thinking about double majoring. And I've always found that at Yale there are a lot of people who have a lot of academic interests. It's just kind of expected, and it makes you a great fit for the liberal arts environment. And so at Yale, they actually make it very easy to double major if you want to, but I always explain that it's easy to not double major as well. And what I mean by that is that the distributional requirements and Yale's just overall sort of approach to your undergraduate education is going to allow you enough space that if you wanted to major in 2 subjects, even if they were wildly different from each other. We've talked a little bit about engineering. You know, I had a friend at Yale who double majored in chemical engineering and theater studies. That was his thing, and he was able to independently, pursue those 2 areas. And I think any given year, between about 15% and 25% of the undergraduate student body will graduate with a double major, where they've actually pursued, the requirements of 2 majors throughout their 4 years. You don't, however, need to double major in order to really dig in deep to multiple areas of study. And this is why I love the cross-departmental majors, like physics and philosophy, the psychology track in the philosophy major, really cool programs out there like ethnicity, race, and migration, or ethics, politics, and economics, where you'll see as you're going through the course catalog at Yale, there really is just not only an expectation that our students are going to be taking courses across multiple areas, but also that our departments are going to play well with each other. When it comes to academic research and teaching, our departments don't want to be siloed. They think that it's fascinating what other departments are doing, and they see those kinds of intersections. So, Claire was asking, what are the downsides, maybe to an interdepartmental major? And personally, I don't see any at all. I didn't feel like I missed out on the opportunity to take really high-level seminars, to work closely with faculty in both departments in each major, and really, and I think most importantly, to sort of apply the ideas and the research from one department to another department as well. And so I actually had a lot of fun with my senior thesis, which was a philosophy paper, but that was sort of trying to incorporate a lot of research that I had come across in psychology courses as I was pursuing that part of my major. And the best thing about it to me was that because I was able to combine those 2 pieces into one major, I still had lots of space left in my schedule for other courses that I wanted to take. So I could take, David Blight's amazing Civil War and Reconstruction history course. I could take a great year-long acting course in the theater studies department. And so I've always loved those interdepartmental majors and think there's something very special about Yale. So I couldn't resist the opportunity to answer that one. But do any of you guys here have anything to add, or maybe a favorite sort of interdepartmental course you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, well, so I'm thinking about double majoring in mechanical engineering and applied math, which aren't as different as maybe physics and philosophy. but they are like two notoriously intense majors. That being said, I do feel like I've gotten a ton of support for that. You know, if anybody has been trying to hold me back, it's been like for my own good. Like, Claire, do you really want to only take mechanical engineering, you know, and applied math classes, which is like, there are subjects that I love and there are subjects that I definitely want to take, but I've definitely gotten a lot of support. But I will say, I was having this conversation with my dean at the beginning of last semester, saying like, I think I want to double major, and she emphasized that you don't have to double major in order to go really in depth in something. And so what she actually advised me to do was to, you know, take the classes that I really want to take, and if at the end of it that means 2 majors, then that's great. But you know, I don't need something like on my transcript or on my diploma saying that I know how to do applied math. So I do think that that's something like important to emphasize.
Great. So we got a new question that just popped up in the Facebook group, and I'm not sure which one of you might want to take this on. Maybe Joe, maybe Abdul. Question about what campus work study is like, and internships, if students take on internships in the summer or while they're on campus.
Maybe we can split that up. I can do the work study, and maybe Joe will want to do internships.
Perfect.
Yeah. So for work study, I'm on work study here at school, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do different jobs on campus. One of the jobs, there are a few jobs to work at the admissions office, there are jobs to work as a dining hall manager, there are jobs to work in the library, but basically jobs are abundant for a lot of students here, especially if you're on work study, and you get a lot of money from those jobs per hour, so you don't have to worry that much about a very low minimum wage. We actually have a pretty high minimum wage. And when work study is included into your daily schedule, you really do get to choose how much you get to work. If you want to make a certain amount of money, then you do get to choose, like if you have to work 2 hours a day or if you want to work 4 hours a day. It's really just up to you and up to the schedule of the specific job that you end up getting. For work study, there typically is a certain amount of money they want you to make during the year, but it's a very manageable schedule that you can make to reach that final amount by the end of the year, and it doesn't really have to compromise with your academics at all. You can really balance those two together, and you can find jobs that are more interesting for you or more relaxing or less time consuming. Like people that work in the library, they typically are scanning books, or they can be sitting there and actually do their homework while they're in the library. So it's really just like you look for the scope of job that you want and how much time you think you'll be able to spend separate from your academics. But it's really, you're able to manage it, it's really manageable, and it's enjoyable too.
Yeah, so one quick thing to add before I talk about internships is that the campus minimum wage is $12 an hour, which is fantastic. So it's like what Abdul was saying, it's easy for you to make a decent amount of money without, you know, feeling like you're spending too much time away from academics or extracurriculars. With regard to internships, most majors have a point person that works with students in the major to coordinate internships or to give advice on which like companies or which organizations to work with over the summer. Just from my experience with the global affairs major, there are a lot of recruiting opportunities. There's so many companies and organizations love to recruit at Yale. And the people who are in these advising roles, they love it. They're very personable, and they care a lot about making sure that you have an internship that you'll enjoy and that will help you in future job searches that you can do over the summer. Yeah, and another thing that's helpful to point out is fellowships again. I talked about those a little bit before with study abroad and international experiences. There are also fellowships that will help you that will help cover like housing and food costs over the summer if you happen to get an unpaid internship. So that's nice that there's not that pressure that you need to find one that will pay you. It really lets you kind of explore all of your options over the summer.
Great. And we've been getting a couple questions here that I think you could help us out with, Claire. We definitely have some engineers in the audience. And I know that we started off with this, but maybe we can hit sort of a little bit broader about engineering generally. So, you know, engineering at Yale is part of the School of Engineering and Applied Science. But what's pretty unique about it is that students have the opportunities you know, to do a full ABET accredited degree in engineering while still being completely immersed you know, in the liberal arts college experience. So I feel like students feel like they, you know, don't miss out on anything by pursuing, their engineering degree and having everything around them at Yale. That's my perspective as an outsider. What's your perspective as someone who, has been in the engineering, on the engineering track now for 2 years and has 2 more years ahead? What seems really special to you about Yale engineering?
Well, so I talked about the CEID earlier, the Center for Engineering Innovation Design with all of their resources. I totally love that. Any prospective engineer has to see that. I'm sure it will be open during Bulldog Days. Come check it out. I'll give you a personal tour if you want to, because I just love this space so much. The other thing that I really like about our engineering program is that there are actually 3 levels to most engineering majors. There's the ABET accredited degree, which Mark talked about, and that is a very rigorous degree. For my program, I have 19 courses beyond prerequisites that I have to take. Or that I get to take, really, because I really do enjoy taking them. 1 level down from that, we call it the BS 12, the Bachelor of Science, and it requires 12 courses beyond prerequisites. That's more typical of a Yale major. Yale majors typically are like 10 to 14 credits, so the BS 12 is kind of right in the middle of that. Then there's the BA 8, we call it, and that is the Bachelor of Arts, and it only requires 8 credits beyond prerequisites. So there are 3 different levels, and it really depends on what you want to do. So an ABET accredited degree is required if you ever want to work for the government, or not ever, but if you want to work for the government right outside of school, or right when you get out of school. Or like most companies will say they want either an ABET accredited degree or a bachelor's degree with like 5 years of experience, something like that. But the 2 other options, the BA and the BS, allow people to double major. So I have a lot of friends who are double majoring in environmental engineering and political science because they're really interested in working for maybe the EPA or something like that, where they get to actually like make policy and protect the environment in that way. So it's been a really good pairing for them. There's also, people will do an architecture major with like a BA 8 in mechanical engineering if they want to go into civil engineering, something like that. So it really is very flexible. So even if the ABET seems like it's a lot of courses, anything like that, I personally think that it's great. I have loved all of my classes. I'm really looking forward to all of the rest of my classes that I haven't taken yet. But if you don't think that that's for you, or if you want to really study something else or double major or anything like that, there are those 2 other options. All of our 5 engineering majors, which are biomedical engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, environmental engineering, and electrical engineering. Almost forgot that one. All of those have the BA and the BS options. Then we also have the ABET options in mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and electrical engineering, and we are soon introducing an ABET option in biomedical engineering because the demand for that major has increased a lot. But those 3 options in those majors are, provide a lot of flexibility for students. And one of my favorite things about being a Yale engineer is that I'm not just an engineer here. It wasn't like I came in the first day of Camp Yale and somebody stamped engineer across my forehead and that's all I was. I'm a member of a residential college. Abdul and I are in the same residential college, TD, go TD, and I have a lot of friends who aren't engineers. I have dinner conversations about ethics and about, this and that and things that, I don't know about, and then I get to talk about robotics with them. And then I get to take really cool classes. I'm in a class this semester called Exploring the Nature of Genius, and we've talked about various geniuses throughout history. We've talked about Newton and Da Vinci and Einstein. And for my final paper, I'm actually writing about Sheldon Cooper, which I'm super excited about. I love the Big Bang Theory, and even though he's like a fictional genius, I still think that'll be really fun. But it's a very flexible program, and it's not the only thing that you do on campus. I've never met an engineer who's only goes to class and does his homework and that's it. We're very well-rounded people.
Super. So there's a question that's actually a great follow-up to this, and I'm going to try to spin it in a slightly different direction. A question is a perfect follow-up because it says, if you aren't in a specific major, but would like to use some of the sort of facilities in that department, can you do that? And like the CEID, the Center for Engineering, Innovation, and Design, is like the best example of this, where this is a 24/7 build space that's open to everyone. And in fact, the majority of members of the CEID, anyone can become a member, the majority of members are not engineers. You will find folks who are prototyping something as an entrepreneur. You'll see folks who are building sets for a theater performance. It's just an awesome space. And so you're going to see that everywhere. And when it comes to academic spaces, you're also going to see it when it comes to residential colleges. And so we haven't talked much today about residential colleges, and I wanted to give these folks a chance to maybe talk a little bit about what makes the spaces that they're in special. So both Abdul and Claire are in TD, but if we could ask sort of all three of you, maybe what's your favorite space in your residential college? And I will sort of, spoiler alert, every space in every residential college is open to everyone. You don't have to be in that residential college to use it. But what's your favorite space in your residential college?
I'll go. So in TD, my favorite space is the TD recording studio that we have. So I actually was trained in TD as a recording studio engineer this past semester. So I get to work with any student artists and any professional artists also that want to come and use the recording studio and the equipment that we have. And I get to record my friends. I get to record people in their bands for CDs that they're making or for demos or for different samples. And so it's just really exciting because I never had the chance to work with music in that way before. I've done like performing stuff in like my own life, but I've never actually had the chance to understand the mechanics of how that all works. And it kind of bridged my interest between how arts and science can really be mixed together and how you can, like, I don't know, create things from that. And learning how to mix music and learning how to use that space to support my friends' creativity was actually like a very positive thing. And I'm glad that the space is just like fun to hang out in and you get to jam out with your friends and record them and see the final product afterwards. So it's kind of like the CID of music for me, at least, where I get to kind of like take whatever we start with that people come in with and make a really good final product that they get to show off to other people.
All right, I'll go next. So every residential college has its own special facilities. So the recording studio that Abdul is talking about is one of the several special things that TD has. So in Davenport College, we have a number of them, and two of my favorites, I'm kind of cheating, I'm going to say two. First one is this, it's a bookbinding studio. So every semester, Davenport hires one of the students here who's a master bookbinder, and he teaches a class on how to, like, from scratch, bind a book. And I actually have one on my desk right here, which is really convenient. So this is a book that I bound last semester, which is, you know, I sewed everything together. You know, you fold all the pages, sew them together, you put the entire cover on and bind it 100%. And you make a number of those books in different styles. So that's one of my favorite ones. And then aside from that, another special one is called the printing press. So Davenport has about 20 different kinds of printing presses that were used in the style of presses from anywhere in the 1800s all the way up to the modern day. And you can, again, take classes there and learn how to set type, and you can print, you know, posters or invitations and stuff there over the course of the semester for that class.
Okay, so my favorite space in TD is definitely our buttery. Every college has a buttery, and it's kind of this like late night snack place. So our buttery is open 10 to 1 Sunday through Thursday night. And it's a really great space to go and hang out with friends. Also get, you know, gushers and fruit roll-ups and quesadillas and mozzarella sticks, all for like really insanely cheap. I think, okay, so I love gushers, so that's what I always get. And one package of gushers is $0.25. So it's like definitely a guilty pleasure that I have, going down to the buttery a couple of times a week and getting some gushers. But it's a really fun space to hang out, and I'll, you know, do work down there. It ends up being do work because I'll end up talking to friends, and it's a really great gathering space. The buttery workers are really fun. They put on some fun, upbeat music. and everybody just enjoys each other's company. Even in like stressful midterm time, like you always see people down in the buttery having fun, and it's really, I think, indicative of the whole residential college atmosphere, which is we all come from different places, we all have different experiences, but we're going to enjoy each other's company anyways, and we're going to get to know each other. And so I definitely love spending space down there, or spending time down there.
Great. All right, so I think we've got time for one more question. And Claire, you seem to be the big winner today because we've got a lot of prospective scientists and engineers here. So this question that came at us through Google Plus is about research and specifically freshmen doing research. So, you know, how easy or difficult is it for a freshman who wants to be involved with research to get started right away?
It is super easy. The entire Yale administration tries to make it as easy as possible for freshmen to get involved in research. I personally haven't done research on campus. Bulldogs racing has kind of been my big thing that I do. I did research in high school and really just I don't know, I'm not really a lab person. I'm really like a race car person. But that being said, there's actually this special fellowship program that's only for freshmen. And any freshman can apply to it, give their research proposal, and it'll most likely get approved if you have like a real plan for the research that you're doing. And with that, you get, I think, $4,400 to spend over the summer after your freshman year, and that's to support you doing research. You can stay in New Haven with that and live, you know, on campus or near campus and work with a Yale professor. You can take it abroad and have your international experience, or you can take it to a university that's more local to your hometown. And what's really great about this is that after you get the funding, any professor will take you because you go up and say, "Hi, I've already been paid. Can I work in your lab?" And they're like, "Hey, free labor, like that's great." So no professor will turn down somebody with this fellowship. I think there are like 150 fellowships available every year, and that's about the same number as people who apply. You know, my suite mate did this last summer. He worked in a lab here called the Grab Lab, and they do like biomedical robotic things. And so I got Snapchats from him all summer of like these like bionic knee braces, and I just thought that that was so cool. And he's thinking about continuing that research this summer too. So it's definitely easy to get involved in research. There are two different ways that you can do research during the semester. You can either do paid research, or you can do research for credit. And so you can actually like do 4 hours of lab work a week and get a credit during a semester for that. And that's pretty cool. And then there's paid research. Minimum wage on campus is $12. So if you want to work 4 hours a week, that's like pretty good pay. What I will say is that when I say doing research on campus, I don't mean washing beakers or, you know, entering in data. These are actually like real experiments that students have designed that have gotten approved by the PI, the primary investigator, and people are coming up with their own things. A lot of people who want to do research will end up with at least one, sometimes multiple papers published by the time they're a senior, and that's a really cool, really unique experience that's great for grad school. One cool story about the freshman fellowship is that the summer that the Higgs boson was discovered, a group of like 7 Yale students had elected to take their freshman fellowship money and go to CERN. And so they were actually in the picture of the press release for like we discovered the Higgs boson. And if you look at that picture, there are like, you know, 6 kids in the front row, all in Yale sweatshirts. And so that's a really cool thing that now we get to talk about and we get to, you know, do that. One of my friends was actually in that group. She's actually in the picture. And this year, instead of going, the seniors go on their senior trip to a beach in the South and like have their fun, but instead of doing that, she's actually presenting her paper in Istanbul, Turkey, and she was invited to do that, which is a fantastic opportunity. And yeah, she's going to miss a week on the beach, but also getting to present a paper abroad is fantastic. So if you want to talk about cool international experiences, there's one.
Excellent. All right, well, these questions have been awesome. Thanks so much to all the members of the class of 2019 who submitted questions for us. We're going to have more virtual student forums coming up throughout April, but most importantly, I hope that all of you will plan to join us for Bulldog Days. That's going to be April 20th through 22nd. Abdul will be there, Claire will be there, Joe will be there, and really the entire campus is going to be there to roll out the red carpet for what's going to be more than 1,000 members of the class of 2019. So we hope that you guys can join us. You can register now for Bulldog Days on the Admitted Student website. You've got about a week to do that, and we really can't wait to see you on campus. Congratulations again, class of 2019, and we look forward to meeting you all really soon.